Welcome to another edition of the MarkTwain Video Journal. Today we come to you from Artificial Isle in the southern part of the United Sailing Sims, where our guest is ZATZAi Asturias. Zat and I recently attended Virtual Worlds in Los Angeles, and this is our report. So Zat, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Yeah, there were a lot of great exhibits from Rivers Run Red, Electric Sheep, Icarus, Metaverse, and more, all showing off different kinds of virtual worlds as well as the future of Second Life from projects not only from Linden Lab but from people like the OpenSim developers. Quite a lot to talk about.
One of the exciting projects I saw there was called Open Simulator. I know this is something Zat knows quite a bit about, so Zat, give us an overview of Open Simulator.
Right, well, in a nutshell, Open Simulator is an open source implementation of the Second Life server code that we use every day.
Yeah, I noticed that more than one company was there with Open Simulator projects. Who was doing what?
Well, IBM was showing what you can do from a corporate standpoint in IBM within a closed behind firewall framework. 3DI was trying to show off the future of Open Simulator as they saw it by showing a Flash platform. And the Open Simulator guys themselves were showing off Real Extend, which allows avatar meshes and building, which is much more complicated than we can do in Second Life now. And just trying to show how you can advance the platform to do whatever you need it to do.
You know, a number of companies doing a variety of different kind of virtual worlds, like this Icarus. Can you tell us about what Icarus Studios is doing?
Right, well, Icarus is a direct competitor with the Multiverse platform, and what both of them are doing is really quite compelling. They're both offering low-cost to high-cost solutions for building your own multiverse from scratch. And the interesting thing about Icarus one is you can actually have two different kinds of clients interfacing with the same world.
Yeah, like that was the 2D Flash world and the 3D world where they're both sides. You're seeing one action and you're seeing it in two different ways. So I could be on a web application and watching, for example, sailboat races that are actually happening in Second World, even though I'm not in there. I thought that was kind of cool for being a spectator thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Right, yeah. There are servers set up so that you can communicate to any kind of client where you are. It does require double the amount of artistic work to have two different clients like that are so different because Flash cannot render 3D things. But it does make it possible to have a light client and a heavy client for different kinds of users.
And an expensive one too. That Flash client, I guess, is like $100,000 just for the basic stuff to produce.
No, you're thinking of Electric Sheep's WebFlock client.
Oh, well, speaking of Electric Sheep, why don't you tell us about WebFlock?
Well, Electric Sheep is, of course, famous for what they've done in Second Life, bringing in some of the big companies. They're one of the big three, the other two being Rivers Run Red and Millions of Us. And they're working on a completely new project that's competing directly with Google's Lively, which is basically an encompassed multiverse within a Flash program. So you don't have to install anything to use it, and it can be made to order exactly as the client needs it to be.
Yeah, so an outside corporate company could have a totally enclosed environment there to do their virtual world. And you mentioned Millions of Us. The other thing they were talking about was with this virtual guests thing they're doing.
Right, the Virtual Grades project. Basically, I want to be like a second set of agents for celebrities like the Elvis Presley Foundation or Britney Spears, whatever, who want to sell their likeness within virtual worlds. Now, they're not targeting Second Life because of the nature of it, but they are targeting other virtual worlds like Habbo Hotel.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned Rivers Run Red. Could you give us some details of what they were talking about?
Right, well, Rivers Run Red is the third of the big three, though there were several companies that developed for virtual worlds like Second Life. But they've entered into a partnership with Linden Lab, and Linden Lab is actually sharing developers with Rivers Run Red. And what they're doing is they have sealed off estates within the Second Life grid that we know today, and they're developing a special website that allows for better collaboration on corporate ideals, meetings, PowerPoint presentations, video, and all within Second Life, within an interface that's easy for corporate heads to use.
Okay, so if River Runs Red is working closely with Linden Lab, what does that mean for the other virtual worlds?
Well, it's a bit of a difficult spot for the other virtual world developers. It looks like Linden Lab is doing their GOMing that they've become famous for, where they find a market that the users of Second Life have become successful in, and then they weigh in on it themselves. And the question is exactly how far they'll get involved and how reaching it'll be to see how much it'll really impact the network of multiverse development companies within Second Life.
Now, number of these things that we saw, we're now talking about, are out there in the future kind of things. One thing I noticed that's almost immediately going to be impacting Second Life is the relationship between Linden Lab and Vivox. Could you tell us about the project they were talking about there, Second Life Slim?
Right. Well, Vivox is the company that provides the voice for Second Life that we all use. And actually, the announcement about the Slim instant messaging client, while we've known about it for a while, was rushed because the major competing platform for Second Life announced their instant messaging program that very day. And basically, what the Slim client is going to be is a voice instant messaging client for Second Life, where you don't have to launch Second Life to talk to your friends in a cell. It'll have a unique interface, and it looks like it'll be pretty easy to use as long as they get all the bugs ironed out.
Now, you mentioned their version of that, which I guess integrates with Facebook. Could you tell us more about that?
Right. Now, their instant messaging client Facebook application were actually much more compelling than the one that Second Life was offering. It's not only an instant messenger that offers groupings of members and everything like you can already do in there, but there's also Facebook integration in that you can log into Facebook, set up your account for there on Facebook, see all your friends on Facebook, see if they're online, see events going on, all that stuff, all through Facebook, if that's the program that you like to use. If you don't like using Facebook, you're out of luck because it doesn't work with any other social apps right now. But the thing I found really interesting is not only is it an instant messaging client, but it's also a 3D chat client, the way IMView is in Lively is from Google, and that if you want to, you can see your avatars interacting with each other.
One of the interesting things was walking down an aisle and seeing this guy jumping around and waving his arms and seeing that appear on a monitor. That was the Kinetic booth. Tell us about that.
Right. Well, they had it was actually pretty interesting because it's what a lot of virtual worlds want to do, which is that you can make gestures in real life with your arms and your head and your upper body, and they'll actually be reflected within the virtual world. Now, at the moment, it's not much of a reality because it requires a motion sensor camera, not just a regular web camera. But it's very compelling that it's possible this technology will, in a couple of years, be on everyone's desktop, and we'll be able to move our hands, pick up things in virtual worlds, move them around, do all kinds of things that right now we need hard-coded gestures to do.
Well, what were the things about the conference that stood out for you?
Well, as always, there's the free swag, you know, like the SLNN Next issue, the yo-yo, the free beer. What other convention has that?
Right. One cool thing was the SLCN party.
Oh, definitely over at the Viceroy Hotel in downtown Santa Monica. That was a lot of fun. Poolside, free alcohol.
Yeah, there was a real question there of which of the two of us was going to fall in that pool, since we were quite close to the edge, but I'm happy to report to everyone that we survived that. I think one of the highlights of that night was that when you and I sat down with Racer X Gullwing and really talked up a storm and redesigned the world, basically.
Oh yeah, Racer was a lot of fun. And while we did not fall in the pool, I have it on good authority that someone did before the night was over.
And with that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Mark Twain White Video Journal. But be sure and join us next time as we do our first of our sim video tours. We'll be going to Grendel's Children, and I guarantee you it won't look anything like the name sounds. Then we'll go over to the Holly Kai Golf Club and take a look at championship golf as it's played in Second Life. So folks, until next time, you take care now.